Hey EV adventurers, welcome back to Jim's EV Adventures, where we charge up the future 1 mile at a time. This is the November 2025 edition of Jim's EV Adventures News Roundup, your go-to source for the pulse of the electric revolution. As we roll into this holiday season, EV sales are shifting gears post-tax credit. Infrastructure is charging ahead like never before, and global policies are sparking debates that could redefine our roads. From red state surprises to international mandates, we've got the facts, the figures, and the forward-thinking insights to keep you powered up and fully informed on what's happening in the world of electrification. So let's dive in. Let's first get into EV car sales. We all know that California leads the country in EV car sales. After all, it's a blue state with plenty of incentives. But where are the number 2 and number 3 states? And what about their incentives? Well, surprise! Number 2 and number 3 are Texas and Florida, both deep red states. You know, the states where voters tend to wax a little bit more conservative than they do in California. Let's look at this in detail and see if we can determine what's going on. Back in 2010, when EVs were just a whisper in the wind, Florida edged out Texas with a measly 92 sales compared to 50 for Texas. Let's fast forward through the years, and it's like watching a drag race on I-95 or I-35. By 2015, Florida's hitting about 6,800 units, but Texas is nipping at the heels with about 6,300, fueled by that wide open space and early Tesla buzz. The real fireworks enter the 2020's pandemic pivot. EVs became the ultimate homebound heroes. Florida clocks 28,500 sales, but Texas surges to 34,000, grabbing a 3.5% market share compared to Florida's 3.2%. Then boom, 2022 flips the script. Texas roars past with 64,000 sales compared to 58,900 in Florida, claiming the crown in Q4 as Austin's Gigafactory started pumping out Model Ys like hotcakes. Both states were mirroring each other as penetration rates hovered around 6%. But Texas' bigger market means more raw volume, more total numbers. Fast forward to 2024, Florida's at a stellar 105,700 EVs, snagging 10.2% of all new rides sold that year, while Texas blasted out 130,000, but that was only 9% of all the rides they sold that year. And what about 2025 so far? Year to date through October, Florida is still projecting 11% full year, but Texas counters at about 9.9% for the full year. Cumulatively, you might ask? Well, there's a staggering number here for us to look at. Texas leads in sheer numbers with 560,000 registered EVs to Florida's 497,000. But between these two red states, there are well over 1 million registered EVs on the road, topping out at about 10% of all new cars sold since 2023. 1 in 10 cars that do not burn the very stuff that made Texas famous, that Texas tea. Talk about a wake-up call for the fossil fuel industry. And they're not going down quietly. October has seen a significant slowdown since the end of the EV tax credit, but that is only a temporary blip. Manufacturers are offering incentives that consumers are just not aware of yet, and these incentives are often better than the tax credit, and prices also continue to drop across the board. And with the new Nissan Leaf and the new Chevrolet Bolt coming into the picture, I predict that Q1 2026 will ramp up to pre-tax credit and yet again surprise the industry analysts because they are stuck in that fossil fuel rut and can't see over the edges to what's on the horizon. This showdown isn't just numbers, it's a testament to how infrastructure and the sheer grit of buyers' choices are electrifying the South in deep drill, baby drill, red states like Florida and Texas. And once and for all, proving that EV car sales are not political. It's a practical and a personal decision. And as Americans, we are all about the right of the individual to make personal decisions when it comes to their desired form of transportation. Big government and big oil have no say-so in our personal preferences. They never have, and they never should. Building on our Florida-Texas sales comparison, let's turn the spotlight to infrastructure, where charging networks are becoming the next battleground in the EV revolution. Tesla has confirmed an ambitious rollout for Florida, targeting 500 additional supercharger stalls for 2025, all installed by the end of December this year. This would expand the state's current network of about 206 stations to more than 300. Some will be featuring the V4 units capable of delivering up to 500 kilowatts. That's enough to recharge a Model Y from 10 to 80% in less than 20 minutes. The additions will focus on key corridors like Interstate 95 from Miami to Jacksonville, as well as interior locations like Ocala, where I-75 and the Florida Turnpike come together. This initiative aligns with Tesla's broader 2025 growth strategy, which has already seen an 18% increase in global supercharger deployments during the third quarter of this year. Notably, the North American charging standard adapters are enabling compatibility with non-Tesla vehicles, including Ford and Chevrolet models, fostering a more unified ecosystem. Florida's push positions it to challenge Texas, which currently ranks third nationally in supercharger density, but could see its lead narrow as the Sunshine State's network catches up. The impact extends beyond convenience. This expansion addresses range anxiety for seasonal residents and tourists, complementing General Motors' recent coast-to-coast fast charging initiatives that include Florida sites. It signals a maturing EV landscape where reliable infrastructure is key to sustained adoption. What are your thoughts on this charging arms race? Does it tip the scales for Florida? Share in the comments and like if you're planning a route that benefits from these changes. Subscribe for practical tips on leveraging these new stations. And now let's shift our attention overseas. As the United Nations COP30 Climate Summit approaches in Brazil in just a couple of weeks, a major debate is brewing over Europe's ambitious 2035 ban on sales of new CO2-emitting cars and vans. The European Commission has accelerated its review of the policy amid growing pushback from the automotive sector and those nasty fossil fuel cartels. In Germany, opposition leader Friedrich Merz has pledged to challenge the full ban, proposing instead a more flexible target of 90% emission reductions. This would allow limited room for synthetic fuels and plug-in hybrids, addressing concerns from industry groups like the VDA about slowing EV demand and supply chain constraints on batteries and raw materials. Other nations are weighing in also. Italy is calling for potential delays, no surprise there, while Denmark insists on maintaining the strict zero-emission standard. No surprise there either. At stake is a delicate balance between aggressive climate goals and economic realities, with the policy still set to drive a full transition to electric fleets by 2035. Here in the United States, the picture is markedly different under President Trump's second term. U.S. delegates, including Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, are preparing to voice strong opposition to such unrealistic mandates at COP30. The administration emphasizes energy independence through a broad mix of sources, including gas and oil, no surprise there, rather than EV-focused overhauls. With the Inflation Reduction Act's tax credits now gone, discussion points towards tariffs on Chinese battery imports and support for American-made hybrids that will drive the future here in the USA. The Trump administration is bent on ending EVs while simultaneously espousing an open and free market economy. This level of duplicity is becoming more and more obvious as time goes on, and anyone who cannot see it or defends it is, in my opinion, incapable of free thinking. This approach could extend the role of fossil fuels and the private transportation sector, which account for 30% of U.S. emissions, another 18% to 20% from the tailpipes of all these big trucks. And it could temper the recent rise in the EV market share to around 10%. President Trump has been vocal on social media, criticizing the EU policy as job killing while highlighting U.S. innovation. How can you call 125-year-old technology that literally pollutes our air innovation? That's nonsense. What he fails to recognize are the numbers of new jobs that EV manufacturing has brought to the USA, far more than any other industry. And for those of us navigating the EV landscape, this highlights a widening divide. Europe and Asia accelerating towards electrification, while America charts a more diverse and, dare I say, dangerous path. What does this mean for your next vehicle purchase? Will you have the ability to buy an EV if the federal government is blocking the ability of manufacturers to make them? Will the U.S. continue to fall further behind in the technological advantages of EVs? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you're following the climate talks, hit that like button and subscribe for updates straight from COP30. That's a wrap on this November EV News Roundup. From red state sales surges and charging network booms to the global policy clashes at COP30, it's clear the electric shift is accelerating on multiple fronts no matter the political weather. These are consumer choices that governments should guide and protect. If you want to own an EV, why should the government mandate, to borrow the anti-EV crowd's term, that you don't have that option? In 2025, we do not see horse-drawn buggies on interstates, now do we? If the government will stop hampering the proliferation of EVs, the same will be true of the gasoline-powered car in the very near future. Whether you're plotting your next plug-in purchase or just geeking out over the data and all the new models available, remember, the road to tomorrow starts with the decisions we make today. Thanks for riding along with Jim's EV Adventures. Drop your hottest takes in the comments, smash that like if this sparked your curiosity, and please subscribe for more electrifying updates. Until the next time, keep the charge high and the adventures rolling, and I'll see you out there or somewhere along the route from point A to point B. Until then, Jim's EV Adventures out.